Chapter 3, Mahavira and Buddha, Great Preachers. So in this chapter we will study about the two new religions that was formed in the 6th century BC and the reason behind their formation, why these religions were formed. So the 6th century BC was a period of religious revolution in various parts of the world. So in 6th century BC there was a kind of religious revolution, and we will study the reasons about this religious revolution that came in the various parts of the world. It was an age when great religious teachers, philosophers and thinkers lived. So this why this 6th century BC was called the period of religious revolution, because that was the period when great religious teachers, philosophers and thinkers lived, and they made their revolutionary ideas of preaching new doctrines. Their ideas made revolutionary changes in all aspects of life. Zoroaster in Persia and Confucius in China preached new doctrines. Doctrines means new principles. So these were the kind of religious teachers or religious preachers. Like Zoroaster, he was of Persia. Confucius of China, they preached new doctrines that helped in the formation of new religions. In India too, the 6th century BC saw many changes. As many as 62 religious groups developed in the Gangetic Plains. So in the Gangetic Plains, that is the northern part of India, 62 new religious groups formed, out of which Jainism and Buddhism had a deep impact on the Indian society. So among the 62 religious groups, Jainism and Buddhism was capable of making or putting a deep impact on the Indian society. So we will read them, we will read the details about these two religions. So causes for the rise of Jainism and Buddhism. Why Jainism and Buddhism came into existence? So these are the reasons. First is the Aryan religion had become quite difficult for the people to understand. In Vedas chapter we already studied about the Aryan religion, and gradually how this Aryan religion went on becoming very rigid and strict. So that is why the people wanted some other easy religion so that they can understand, because Aryan religion was becoming quite difficult for them to understand. Animal sacrifices had raised a reaction in people. There was animal sacrifices in the name of religion, and that is why people wanted a religion which do not sacrifice animals, because animals were very useful for them, especially for the farmers. Rituals had become very costly. The priests, they were exploiting the common people in the name of unnecessary rituals. They made the rituals very expensive, which was beyond the reach of common people. Magic, charms and spells had begun to dominate religious practices. There were all sorts of magic, charms and spells in the religious practices. All these magic, charms and spells were being done in the name of religion. Sanskrit, the language of the Vedic texts, was not understood by the common people. They were even not permitted to read the Shastras. So Sanskrit was the language of the priests as well as the educated people. So it was beyond the understanding of common people. Even the Shastras, it was written in Sanskrit, which were not permitted to the common people to read. The caste system had become very rigid. In the later Vedic civilization, we studied that the caste system became very rigid, very strict. The entire society was divided between higher caste and lower caste. It divided the society into high, low. The Hindus ill-treated the Shudras. The Shudras, they were the lower caste, and they were very much ill-treated by other high caste people. Thus, the caste-ridden and ritual-ridden Aryan society was showing signs of decay. So, because this Aryan society was filled with casteism and so much dominating rituals, so that is why this Aryan society showed signs of decay. People wanted to shift their attention from this religion to some other religion, which was more easier for them. Social and religious degeneration had set in the society. The society was filled with social and religious degeneration. The people, they were shifting their attention from the present society to some other society, or from the present religion to some other religion, which was easy as well as which does not create any kind of distinction in between them. So that is why they diverted their attention, and that is why 6th century BC saw this religious revolution. It was in this atmosphere that saw the rise of a class of wandering teachers who believed that right conduct, among other things, the practice of ahimsa or non-injury to living beings, was one of the main ways to attain salvation or moksha or freedom from the cycle of life and death. So it was in this atmosphere, the atmosphere where the society was caste-ridden and ritual-ridden. In this society, many teachers, many wandering teachers, they emphasized on right conduct. A person's actions should be right, among other things, as well as the person should follow ahimsa, that is non-injury to living beings. No one should injure any kind of living being. And these are the ways by which one can attain salvation, that is moksha, which means freedom from the cycle of life and death. Vardhamana Mahavira and Gautam Buddha were the two most important reformers of the 6th century. Reformers means a person who brings any kind of change in the society. So Vardhamana Mahavira and Gautam Buddha were among the two most important reformers of 6th century BC. So now we will study details about Jainism. Vardhamana Mahavira was the founder of Jainism. There were 23 other religious leaders before Mahavira according to Jain religious texts. These religious leaders, they are called Tirthankaras. So before Mahavira there were 23 Tirthankaras, and Mahavira was called the 24th Tirthankara and the last one. So Mahavira was 24th one and the last one. After that nobody became Tirthankara. Life of Mahavira. Vardhamana Mahavira was born at Kundalagram near Vaishali in Bihar in about 540 BC. His father Siddhartha was the chief of Kshatriya clan of Kshatriyas. His mother Trishala belonged to Pavar Lichavi tribe. So Siddhartha was his father and Trishala was his mother. At the age of 30, Vardhamana gave up the life of ease and comfort, since he was the son of the king. So he was the royal prince who was living a very luxurious and comfort life. But at the age of 30, he gave up all his comfort and luxury. He left his palace in search of truth. Why he gave up this kind of comfortable life? Because he wanted to search truth. That is why he left his palace in search of truth. For 12 long years, he did hard penance and meditation. So he did very strict meditation, as well as penance means a kind of self-punishment by torturing, by not giving food to the body, and exposing to harsh climatic conditions. So this was the penance that he did to himself. So for 12 years, he did this hard penance and meditation. At the age of 42, he gained true knowledge. So after 12 years of penance and meditation, at the age of 42, he got this true knowledge. After getting this true knowledge, he came to be known as the master of Kevala Jnana, that is true knowledge, that is the master of true knowledge, or the Mahavira, that is the great hero. He was also hailed as Jina. So he was also called Jina, that means the conqueror of the self. He conquered himself, he conquered his desires. That is why he is called Jina. After attaining true knowledge, he came to be known as Kevala Jnana. After conquering his own desires, he came to be known as Jina. And that is why his followers are called Jains. Mahavira died in Pava in South Bihar at the age of 72, when his fame had spread far and wide. So at the age of 72, he was very famous, and that was the time when he died. And teachings of Mahavira. So the main teachings of Mahavira is divided into two parts. One is 3 jewels, another is 5 vows. So first is 3 jewels. The main aim of man's life is to attain salvation. We already studied that Jainism and Buddhism both taught to attain salvation. That should be the main aim of a man's life. Salvation is the freedom from the cycle of life and death. This can be achieved by following 3 jewels or 3 ratnas. So how can a man attain salvation? By following these 3 jewels, otherwise called 3 ratnas. What are they? Right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. One should have right belief, one should have right knowledge, and one should have right conduct. One's action should be right. And then are the 5 vows. So what are these 5 vows? Not to injure life, that is ahimsa, not to steal, not to tell lie, not to own property, and not to lead an impure life. So these are the 5 vows a man should follow in order to attain salvation. Spread of Jainism. The monastic order of Munis set up by Lord Mahavira helped to spread Jainism. So this monastic order is the organization of Jainism, and this organization went far and wide to different places to spread Jainism. So what are those places? Rajasthan, Western India, Bengal and Central India. Many people in India became the followers of Jainism. At the time of Mahavira's death, the number of his disciples are the followers, had risen up to 14,000. Later on, many kings adopted it as a state religion. So during the time of Mahavira's death, there were almost 14,000 followers of Jainism. Many kings, they also adopted Jainism as their state religion. Jain art and literature flourished under their patronage. There are many Jain temples in India. One picture is given here. This is a picture of Dilwara temple in Mount Abu, Rajasthan. So this is an example of Jain architecture. The Dilwara temple at Mount Abu and the Palitana temple at Satrunjya Hills, Gujarat are famous among these Jain architectures. The religious books of the Jains are the Angas and Purvas. So these are the two religious books of Jainism, Angas and Purvas. After the death of Mahavira, his followers were divided into two sects, Swadamvaras and Digambaras. So after Mahavira died, Jainism got divided into two groups or two sects, Swadamvaras and Digambaras. The Swetambaras wear white clothes, whereas the Digambaras did not wear clothes at all and led a life of self-torture. They followed in hard penance, very strict penance. Though Jainism did not become as popular as Buddhism, yet it survives to this day with millions of followers in different parts of India and the world. So Jainism was not so popular like Buddhism because Jainism was a it was very strict in its rules and regulations. It had to follow this hard penance, which was not easy for other people, which was not easy actually for many people. So that is why it did not become as popular as Buddhism, because Buddhism was very simple religion and it was not so strict also. It did not say people to follow this hard penance. Then contribution of Jainism to Indian culture. Growth of vernacular language. So what was the contribution of Jainism to Indian culture? First is the growth of vernacular language. Vernacular means local language, the growth of local language. Jainism had made a significant contribution to vernacular language, particularly Kannada and Gujarati. Mahavira himself preached in Ardha Magadhi. So previously we studied in Vedic civilization, there was Sanskrit as the language which was not understood by common people, but Jainism gave importance to vernacular languages, local languages, especially Kannada and Gujarati. Mahavira himself preached in Ardha Magadhi so that even common people could understand, because this was the language of common people. Then art and architecture. Many artistic monuments were created by the followers of Jainism. Mount Abu in Rajasthan, already we studied the example of Jainism architecture, that is Mount Abu in Rajasthan is famous for Jain temples. The famous caves in Udayagiri hills of Madhya Pradesh and in Ellora in Maharashtra are the fine examples of their architecture and sculpture. Then humanitarian service. The teachings of Mahavira led his followers to pay more attention to humanitarian services. Humanitarian services means for the welfare of humanity. Services that does some kind of welfare to humanity, such as construction of hospitals, schools, hospitals and inns were built. So these were the humanitarian services that Jain followers used to provide to the society. Then Buddhism. Like Lord Mahavira, Lord Buddha too led a reform movement in the Aryan or Hindu religion and society in the 6th century BC. So like Mahavira, we studied that Jainism was a kind of reform movement in this Aryan religion. Similarly, Lord Buddha also started this reform movement in the Aryan or Hindu religion. But unlike Mahavira, he followed the middle path in his teachings. This Buddhism is actually the middle path between Hinduism and Jainism. He avoided the extreme austerity and penance of Jainism. There was already we studied that in Jainism there was extreme austerity. A person has to follow very strict regulations. He has to do very strict penance, that is self-torture. But that was not in Buddhism. On one hand, and the rigid rituals and sacrifices of the Aryan Brahmins, and in Hinduism there was this rigid rituals and animal sacrifices that was also not there in Buddhism. So that is why Buddhism is the middle path between Jainism and Hinduism. As the Buddha adopted the middle path, his teachings became more popular not only in India but also abroad. So because of this middle path, Buddhism was a very simple religion for the people to follow, and that is why it became very popular not only in India but also abroad. Life of Buddha. The Buddha, Siddhartha being his original name, was born in village of Lumbini. So Lord Buddha's original name was Siddhartha. He was born in the village of Lumbini near Kapilavastu, now in Nepal, about the year 567 BC. He came of a royal family. He was the son of Sudhodana, the king of Kapilavastu and chief of Shakya clan. His mother, Mahamaya, died 7 days after the birth of Siddhartha, who was brought up by his aunt. So because his mother died, so that is why he was brought up by his aunt, whose name was Gautami. When Siddhartha was a child, a sage had foretold that the boy would be a great religious and spiritual teacher one day. So when Siddhartha was a child, sage is a kind of saint like Munis. So he predicted that that Siddhartha will grow up to become a great religious and spiritual teacher. Even as a child, he did not take much interest in worldly affairs. He was a royal prince, but he was never interested in any kind of worldly affairs. He used to spend long hours in long thinking and meditation. Being a child also, he used to spend much of the time in long thinking and meditation. To prevent the child from becoming a religious teacher, his royal father provided him with all the comforts and luxuries. So, as this sage foretold that he will become a religious and spiritual teacher, so to avoid that, his father gave him all the comforts and luxuries of life. When Siddhartha was 19 years old, his father got him married with a beautiful princess named Yashodhara. He led a married life, and a son named Rahul was born to the couple. Buddha is believed to have died in 487 BC at Kushinagar at the age of 80. The Great Renunciation. This is the important time period in Buddha's life, the Great Renunciation. All comforts of the palace life gave no peace of mind to Prince Siddhartha. So already we studied here, he never liked the material worldly affairs. He every time he spent maximum time in long thinking and meditation. So he was never attracted to this comforts of the palace. One day he went along with his charioteer Channa to the city to see life closely. So one day he went out to see life closely, and there were these 4 sights which he saw that day, and these 4 sights changed his life completely. What were those 4 sights? He saw an old man, a sick man, a dead man, and an ascetic. So these were the 4 sights that he saw. All these sorrowful sights disturbed him. He was very much disturbed by seeing these 4 sights. He became very sad and desired to find the solution to these sufferings. So that was the day when he decided that he will find solution to all these sufferings. He had found that the world was full of misery. He decided to renounce the world. So he realized that these desires bring misery to oneself, and that is why he wanted to renounce the world. He wanted to leave all these comforts and luxuries. So one night when his wife and child were asleep, he left the royal bedroom and renounced the world at the age of 29. This event is called the Great Renunciation. So this was the important event in Gautam Buddha's life. That was the Great Renunciation, when he left his royal life and he went out in the search of truth at the age of 29. This event is called Great Renunciation. Attainment of supreme knowledge. Siddhartha left his home in search of true knowledge. After a long meditation under a peepal tree at Bodh Gaya, he got the true knowledge. So he meditated rigorously under this peepal tree at Bodh Gaya. After that, he got true knowledge. After getting the true knowledge, he came to be known as Buddha, or the Enlightened One. This happened in 532 BC when Siddhartha was 35 years of age. So he was enlightened at the age of 35. On the site where the Buddha attained enlightenment, there stands the Mahabodhi temple till today. So on that particular site where Buddha attained enlightenment, Buddha attained true knowledge, on that site today stands this Mahabodhi temple. It is this is a picture given over here. This is the Mahabodhi temple, and this was the site where Lord Buddha attained enlightenment.